Hello and welcome, this is Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, I'm going to share the first thing that I created using this Simon Snow Globe die set as well as the Sparkling Snowflakes 3D embossing folder. Now I have a soft spot for snow globes, so as soon as I saw this set, I knew I had to get it and play with it. There's also a couple of supplemental sets or sets that coordinate with it that you can change up the scenes to go in the snow globe. Now the snow globe could be used as an element on the front of a card. I'm using it as the shape of a card. So for this particular project, I'm only using this snow globe die set. I'm not going to use any of the supplemental ones. I'll do that in a future video. So I'm using the circle from the snow globes and I'm cutting it several times. I want to create a snow globe shaped card and I want several layers to it. So I want a back of a card, I want the kind of middle, and that'll make sense in a minute. And then I'm doing a front to the card where we have a clear circle. And I'm going to use this Ranger Dura-lar for that circle because I want to do some hot foiled snowflakes on it. And this Dura-lar is heat tolerant. So once I've got it die cut and all my other pieces die cut as well, I'm going to pull out my Glimmer Machine and I'm going to do some hot foiling. I'm also using some glitter cardstock to die cut some of the elements. I'm trying to keep it fairly monochromatic, fairly light. So I'm going to use some white glitter that has a little bit of opalescent shine to it, as well as some Prism holographic foil, and then just plain white cardstock. And in the end, it creates a really beautiful snow globe. You don't have to keep it monochromatic like this. You could easily add some color to it. You could ink blend your cardstock. You could use colored cardstock, so the sky's the limit. So the first thing I wanted to do was create some holographic cardstock, and in order to make sure that it's going to match the foiled snowflakes perfectly, I took some hammermill cardstock and I foiled the entire sheet or the entire quarter sheet of hammermill cardstock with the Prism foil and put it to the side. And I used a solid hot foil plate for that to create the pressure as well as the heat. I'm using the Glimmering Snowflakes hot foil plate to do the foiling on the clear Dura-lar. For the first batch, I did tape it in place to make sure it didn't shift, but I found out that I really didn't need to do that. So after this, I'm not going to be taping it in place. That hot foil kind of is staticky, so it kind of stays in place all on its own, and it's not really necessary to have that tape. I was pleasantly surprised though to know that that tape didn't leave any sticky residue on the Dura-lar, so that's good to know. So I'm going to do this several times. I'm using my Glimmer Machine here as well as my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine. You need the Glimmer Machine for the heat and you need the Platinum Machine or a die cutting machine for the pressure. You can't do it without both of those machines with it. So I've got my foil just cut into small pieces and I'm only trying to put the snowflakes around the outside of the circle. I don't really want to completely block the center of the circle or the little house images that I'm going to have behind it. It's just to add a little snowflake accent. And I had just gotten these snowflake hot foil plates and I really just wanted to try it, and I thought this would be perfect for it. And I am using the smaller snowflakes on this plate set, and they tend to be towards the outer edges, so it's really easy to pick and choose which ones I'm doing. You want to make sure, if you haven't done foiling before, to make sure that your pretty side of your foil is touching the pretty side or the image side of your hot foil plate. I make a mistake on the very last one and I have my foil facing the wrong way and end up foiling my hot foil place. It's no big deal. It just comes off with, I believe, rubbing alcohol. I haven't actually taken it off of my plates yet, but you do want the pretty side facing your hot foil plates. Now, if you don't happen to have a hot foiling machine, you can get holographic cardstock. So you can use that holographic cardstock for the pieces that I die cut. And then when it comes to these snowflakes, you could use a punch or you could use some snowflakes to cut those images out. So you can create a very similar look with using some holographic cardstock. I really like how the hot foil is very flush with the Dura-lar, so you don't get extra dimension from that, but you will get some extra dimension when I go and add some of the holographic die cuts to the front of there. Now this snowflake hot foiling plate would be really, really pretty for a background, to create a snowflake background on a card. And it also comes with a coordinating die, so that die can cut out those snowflakes as well. And I think those would be cute for dimensional snowflakes on the front of a card, or even little pieces inside of a shaker card. There's a lot of different sizes of snowflake there, so you can pick and choose which size is going to work best for what you're doing. And these are going to work great for both holiday cards as well as winter cards. Now this is the last snowflake I foil, and actually you can see it in the video that I have the foil facing the wrong way. And once I go and put it through my Platinum 6 machine, you'll see when I peel it off of the Dura-lar that I've got this foiling right on my die cut or my hot foil plate, and it's not on the Dura-lar. I ended up not redoing it because I didn't feel that I really needed that snowflake for that background. And I did think it was funny that it was the very last one that I did it wrong rather than one of the first ones. So now that I have everything that I need foiled, I have my machine unplugged and cooling down to the side, and I'm going to take the pieces that I want to be holographic and I'm going to die cut them from that holographic foiled cardstock. I am taping this sentiment die in place. The cool thing with the sentiments from this set is it has a little bit of a curve to it to go onto the base of that snow globe, but you can put in several different sentiments. So you can pick and choose which one you want for whatever project you're working on. And I like the fact that you have the option of different sentiments, and you also have the option of different house sizes. I chose the smallest one that was attached right to the hill, but there are some larger houses in this set as well as the accent pieces for the houses. Now I'm going to take one of my white circles that I have die cut in cardstock, and I'm going to use the Sparkling Snowflake 3D embossing folder to add some snowflake texture to it. Now when I use a 3D embossing folder, I like to mist both sides of the paper. Just softens it and helps push it into all of those areas. And because of that, I do set it aside to dry for a few minutes, just so that cardstock will be dry once I'm gluing everything together. I have my Barely Art Glue put into a tiny bottle with a fine tip. It's just easier to hold because the bottle is a lot smaller. And I'm going to start working on the card, but I'm working from the back to the front. So I glued the circle part of the snow globe onto the base and let that dry for a few minutes. And then I'm taking that base and I'm putting a score mark about 1/2 inch from the top. I want to make this a card that folds at the top or attaches at the top that I can open up. And you could also take this and put a hole punch at the top and create a tag with it. So I scored that, folded it back, and then I'm putting that snowflake embossed piece onto the top of that. And it's only glued right where it was scored. So I'm not having any glue holding that thing closed. It's only holding that top part there. If you had a die cut that had a straight edge at the top, you wouldn't necessarily need to do this step. You could fold your cardstock and then put the die so that the blade was just outside of the fold. Because the circle of the snow globe is round, it would look awfully funny if I did that and had a flat edge to the top of the snow globe. So by doing the card this way, it eliminates having that flat edge. Once that top piece is dry, I can take my houses on the hills and I can glue them down. Now, while I was waiting for that glue to dry, I just took a Copic marker that was a light yellow and put that on the windows of these houses. I didn't want to put cardstock behind there because they're so tiny that I don't think it's really worth that effort. And by just taking a marker and just lightly touching it and color those areas, you get a very similar look anyways. I have all of my holographic pieces die cut, and because that foil has barely any dimension to it, and that cardstock that I used was hammer mill and it's really, really fine, it die cut beautifully, even the most intricate of the dies from this set. So I like using the foiled cardstock more than specialty cardstock, because sometimes specialty cardstock is quite thick and it's a little bit harder to die cut some really, really intricate parts. I can use my tweezers to help me place any of those pieces down, and that fine tipped bottle helps me to get glue even in the most tiny areas. Now I had cut these doors because I thought they would match or go with these houses, but they really are meant for the bigger houses in the set. So they're a little bit big for this particular set, but I did put them on there anyways, but I have most of it covered with trees just so you get a hint of a door, but it just doesn't look off scale because you're not seeing a large amount of it. Once I have all of those pieces glued with the houses, I can take my front hill and put that down. And once that is down, I can put some more trees on the front. Now I started putting it down and then realized that there's one house that should have a little bit of a door, and that hill was going to cover most of it anyways, but you're just going to see the little top of it kind of peeking out. So you're not going to have the off scale again. You're only seeing a little hint of it. Now, some of the trees that I'm adding are cut from glitter cardstock, and some of them were cut from just the white cardstock. And I like the combination of the two different textures on them. Some of those trees go outside of my snow globe circumference, and what I will do is once everything is dry, I'll just take some scissors and I'll trim those tips off just so that they're within that circle. And using tweezers like these that you have to squeeze to reverse the grip on them is really helpful for something like this, because these die cuts are so tiny. Sometimes it's hard to keep your hands glue free or be able to see exactly where that glue is going. So by using a pair of tweezers, it's very easy to only put the glue where I want it to go on each one of those die cuts and to place them nice and precisely. So while that base is drying, I have placed my holograph Dura-lar on the top of my acrylic block. It's really hard to see, but while that's drying, I can place that on there and I can glue down my Santa and sleigh and reindeer and put an acrylic block on that so that that can start drying as well. Might as well do a couple things at one time. And now I'm putting my sentiment onto the bottom part of that base for my card front. I chose to do that sentiment with the holograph, and it does a reverse sentiment, so you see the layers or the letters are the color of the cardstock beneath it. And by doing that, it just kind of ties in all of the holographic foil that's in here. And the glitter paper that I use has a little bit of an iridescent shimmer to it as well, and it works really well with this holographic foil. Now I've used this Barely Art glue for a few projects now, and it originally threw me off how runny it was or loose it was compared to the Distress Collage medium that I've been using for a long time. But I really like how quickly it starts to dry, and it really kind of grabs that paper and holds it in place. So I'm really impressed with it. I'm just taking the scissors and trimming off those excess little bits, and I absolutely love how this card turned out. Now I use this snow globe as a shaped card. You could see by the size of it that it could be an element on the front of an A2 card, and it's a nice size that it sits sturdily all on its own. You could use it as a large tag and poke a hole in the top and then put some silver cord or ribbon through there. There's so many different options to it, and because you can pick and choose which sentiment you want, you can alter it for whatever use you use it for. You could even use this as an ornament. If someone wanted to create a tag and then have it as an ornament on their tree afterwards, I think it would work that way as well. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I really appreciate you being here. Have a fabulous day.